Hey, everybody. Welcome to Perpetual Motion, a podcast focused on culture, communication, wellness, and relationships. I'm the host, Dr. Mo Anderson. I'm a best-selling author and speaker whose goal is to help you stress less, produce more, and love the ones you're with. This episode, my guest is Tamika Johnson of Atlanta, Georgia, the ATL. She is a licensed attorney, magazine editor, and founder of an exclusive matchmaking agency for highly successful professionals. Say that 3 times without stumbling. I've interviewed matchmakers in the past, but never one with a legal background. So today, I've asked Tamika to share her principles on the business of dating and relationships. She actually teaches professionals to apply the business strategies, processes, and systems that have made them successful in their careers to their personal relationships and become successful in that area of their lives as well. As a single in her target demographics, I can assure you the struggle is real and I am all ears.
You can't say Dr. Mo ain't tell ya that fear magnifies the consequences of failure. What are you scared of? Why are you afraid? I'd rather live like I'm dying than live to die. Any day, my heart is pure, my soul is safe.
Tamika, welcome to Perpetual Motion.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Mo. I'm so excited about this conversation. I love talking about this stuff.
All right, let's do it. Let's go back to the beginning. Young Tamika, you wanted to become an attorney at a very young age, like around 10 years old, 5th grade. Why?
Yeah, so I don't know how it came to be. I think it was always in my spirit to be an entrepreneur in some capacity, but I knew I wanted at a young age, it probably started around 4th grade. I knew that I wanted to have a profession. I knew I didn't want to have a job. I wanted to have something where I could work with someone and that I could also do on my own. I don't know where that mindset came from, but it did. And I had it. So initially, I wanted to be a pediatrician. And then I realized I didn't like science. So that was not going to be a good field for me. Let my mother tell it. It's because I couldn't spell pediatrician. And so it was pediatrician or lawyer. Yeah, I could spell lawyer. So she thinks that's how I came to.
Wow. Okay. Process of elimination.
Right. But the reality was I actually ended up doing a book report, which we did back in elementary school. Mm-hmm. And I chose Thurgood Marshall. And after doing the research on him, I was like, I want to be a lawyer and I want to make a difference and have an impact on people's lives. So from that point forward, that was what I wanted to do, to become a lawyer. Interestingly enough, my daughter is actually born on his birthday.
Really?
So there's a little bit of connection there, which I didn't know. But yeah, so that was really the catalyst, wanting to have a profession that was respected, that I can do on my own and work with someone as well. And just kind of went from there.
I'm so glad you did. You must have been quite an amazing young person in the 4th grade. I love that you were that forward thinking and purposeful. And, we just had the hearings for soon to be, I pray, Supreme Court Justice Jackson. And it is just, you realize the impact that you can have on people simply by existing and being purposeful. People who may never meet you, never know you. Barbara Jordan had that kind of impact on me with her eloquence and her ability to speak. I didn't quite know what to call it, but I knew I wanted that command of language that she had. So kudos to you. That's a great story. So you didn't just think it and dream it. You realized that you got through school, took the LSAT, did everything you needed to do, got into law school, and then first year of law school, almost to the mountaintop, and your plans changed. You became a mother, a single mother. How did that impact you?
Well, I think probably the biggest thing would be the perseverance, right? So yeah, after my first year of law school, I was going to transfer and I ended up getting pregnant and basically was a single mother from jump. It was just something that I would have never imagined that would have happened to me. I was probably well insulated, just kind of growing up. And so when I got pregnant, it was the most devastating thing that happened to me from the standpoint that I was left alone. That was not what I envisioned. None of us envisioned being single parents. I always, I had a vision of what my husband was going to look like and getting married and then having kids and all of that. And it was devastating from that standpoint. But
and hold that thought to the point of what you said. I don't think any of us envision being single parents ever, even in the fourth grade. We just grow up with that Barbie and Ken mentality of how it's going to be in the picket fence and it's going to last forever. And for so many, 50%, who get divorced, and then the so many who never married, weren't married, or were single parents, it's a reality that we don't talk about enough. So I appreciate you sharing your story because it's very real for so many people.
So, I didn't let it define me. When my daughter, she was born, she was about 5 weeks. I started law school again. And by 6 weeks, at the time I was working at a law firm. So I started working full time back at the law firm that I was at. And after that first year, oh my goodness, it was exhausting. I don't even know to this day how I was functioning. I started off, I was nursing, going to law school, working full time. Everything was a blur. You
were going to law school and working full time and had a baby.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman.
Right. And listen, I don't want that title. No woman should want to have that title. We're talking about burning the cape these days. So,
yes.
But I had it then. After that first year, like I just said, I can't do this. I'm not going to make it. And I had to choose. It was either the job full time or law school. And because law school is what I always wanted to do, I quit the job and ended up pursuing law and going back to law school full time. So it kind of threw me off course a little bit. I just remember going back to law school. And of course, I was not the only woman that had a baby. But I do remember for women who weren't married, a lot of them had their parents or their mothers taking care of their children while they were in law school. And to me, that wasn't a thought. It was, okay, I have a daughter. She's my responsibility. So she was with me. She was in tow.
Preach. Hello. We do not default to the grandparents because our plans have changed. Right. That's real.
Yeah. Although my parents were super supportive, but it was just, that was my responsibility. So yeah, we moved from Atlanta at that time to Baton Rouge. And I just kind of made it work. 2 years there. I remember sitting down with the career advisement at the law school. And I was like, look, I need to graduate in 2 years. It needs to be a 3-year deal. I need to graduate in 2 years. And because I was going to a different type of state, there was different types of laws and classes that I had to take. And she was like, there's no way that you can do it. And I was like, she was like, you're going to have to overload every semester. And I was like, okay. She's like, there's no way you're going to be able to do it. And I was like, okay. And I did it. I was like, there's no way I'm staying there more than 2 years.
Yes.
So whatever it is I had to do, social life was not important. It was school and my daughter, and that's what I did.
Yeah.
In 2 years, I was out. And thankfully, that happened because I think 2 months after I graduated law school, Katrina hit New Orleans and everything, changed drastically over there. So I got out of there just in time. And so that was just like kind of another thing, if you put in the hard work and the dedication, you can get it done, right?
Yeah, you can.
It's temporary.
Yeah, you can. And delay that immediate gratification so many people need, because I feel like if there's a time limit to it, I can do anything. For me, going to dental school, people were like, how do you go to college that long and then go to dental school another 4 years and then all the hours? I was like, because I knew it was 4 years. If I could just get through this. That's what's terrible about labor pains, because you don't quite know when this is going to end. This horrible, horrible pain. But I knew same with me, like I'm doing this in 4 years. I had a kid in dental school. I was married. I had that support, but it was still hard as heck. And I always say if birds could think, they wouldn't fly. We just didn't think about it. We just did. And at some points in your life, you just do because you know there's a big goal at the end if I can just endure, if I can just get through this. But that's amazing and very inspiring. What is your daughter's name? We haven't said her name.
Kamaya.
Kamaya, and I don't think anybody's gonna go after her or anything, but she's an important part of this story. So shout out to Kamaya. Absolutely. So you did get out of law school and did the impossible that they told you that you couldn't do. And if you're like me, that motivated you anymore. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna show you. You can't tell me what I can't do. Watch me. And so you're out of law school, you and your daughter, your wonderful family supporting you. And then now you're ready for the next thing they tell us to aspire to. It's accomplished men, women, a relationship. And you did get into a relationship that lasted a decade. Tell us about that and the lessons that you learned from that relationship.
Sure. So when I got out of law school, graduated, passed the bar, all of that, I'm an attorney. I was like, okay, I am cream of the crop. And so it is going to be very easy for me to find a man and a husband, and we're just going to get married like I thought originally, just get married and, grow our family. But that was not the case. It was actually very challenging to find relationships or healthy relationships with compatible partners. And so I kind of went through this thing of, okay, well, maybe I don't have to be with a man who has as much education as me. Maybe I don't have to be with someone who makes as much money as me. Maybe we can just kind of work on it.
Right. Or as tall as me. At one point, I had to lower my height requirements.
Yes, all of that. And so you start thinking, as long as they're a good person, right? Then, we can make things work, but sometimes you're just not compatible. But I met someone, and he had just gotten out of a 16-year marriage. And so we all know, in hindsight, 2020, you don't get in a relationship with anyone who just got out of
a relationship. No, ma'am. I learned that the hard way.
So I was a rebound. I was a good rebound.
Oh, yes, but
the long-term rebound.
You are a hell of a rebound, but they're not ready. Their hearts are healing.
I was a rebound nevertheless. So, and I don't want to take anything from him. He had 3 kids coming into the relationship. I had my one. I always wanted to have more children. He did not. He thought he was going to be married forever. So he actually had a vasectomy before we even met. And, that was one of the discussions that we had when we met. And because he was going through some custody issues, when we first kind of met, he was like, well, maybe I'll have a reversal and we'll kind of go from there. We weren't really pressing it at the time. But at the same time, because he was getting out of a relationship, he got married when he was young. He didn't have enough time to really explore dating like he should have. And so I tried, honestly, I dumbed down my requirements and my values and was trying to be really flexible in the type of relationship that we had. And so just did things that were not principled, in my opinion now. But just because I cared about him and loved him and all of that, I was trying to.
I know the things you'll do, and then you look back. You wouldn't even let your girlfriend do it, your sister do it, and you look back and you're like, "What the hell? what was I doing?" But it seemed like the right thing at the time. It did. That love of woo.
And doing all of that, he declined because there was going to be some reciprocity in there, but he didn't want the reciprocity, so he ended up. Just dating, seeing other people on the side behind my back. There were a lot of silent phones. There was cheating. There was lying. There was all of that. We are not dumb. We know what's going on, but we can't tolerate it. After we forgive the first time, you're like, oh, I'm done. After you put all the clothes in the middle of the floor, I'm done. And then something happens and he comes back and, kind of smooths everything over. Okay, I can forgive. We learn we have to forgive. Relationships aren't easy. But it was 10 years of that. And it put me in a really bad place. And the reality was, because I was working, I was still a single mother to my daughter, legally, and, working and all of that. I just didn't have time, in my opinion, to date and, go out there and meet other people. And I was scared of being alone. So I stayed, and I stayed for 10 years. I was stressed. I was depressed. My hair came out. It was horrible. And at a point, when I was late 30s, I realized this was having an impact, not just on me physically, but it was having an impact on my daughter, from her confidence, the on again, off again, all of that. So,
and the role model that we're presenting, I'm divorced. I was married 17 years, and I remember my youngest son saying at one point, I was trying to hang in there till they got out of high school, and he's like, "Mommy, you don't smile anymore." He's that one that's real in tune with me. Girl, that broke my heart that he had noticed that when I thought I was doing such a good job of pretending to be happy. Right. And I didn't want him to think that was normal for a relationship, that the woman doesn't smile. That's not what I want for him.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I saw kind of the same thing with my daughter. She didn't have the confidence that I had. She didn't have the stability that I had growing up with both of my parents. And I could see how that was playing on her.
Right.
And, I had to finally make a decision, and it wasn't easy. There were plenty of breakups and makeups.
Sure.
But, just seeing in her, having her experience that it wasn't right. It wasn't right for her. It wasn't fair for her. And I've apologized to her. We've had discussions about it. We've talked about it, because I realized that. And that's important. Right. If you see that you've done that, you've got to talk to your children and try to make it right. You can't change it, but acknowledge that it happened and this is not right. And what they've seen is not right. So.
That's good, because if they just see the action and don't understand the motivation and the lessons of it, you don't know what kind of conclusions they're going to come to. That's a good point. I don't think most people do that. They just kind of leave and hope the kids understand eventually. I hear that, when they become adults, they'll get it. Well, no, not if they're not privy to what your thoughts were behind those actions.
Right.
Huh. Well, and it sounds like you and your daughter are really close and have a wonderful relationship.
We have a pretty good relationship, and I'm thankful for it. She's going through something. She will tell me. I'd say probably a couple months ago, she called me and she was just kind of like, "Can you come over?" She was staying with my mom at the time because it was closer to her college that she was going to commute. She was like, "Can you come over?" And I was like, "Yeah, is everything okay? What's going on?" And she was like, I feel like I'm breaking down. Like I don't know what to do. I'm just having a moment. So she was having a tough time. But just to say, she's like, "I just can't do this anymore." And, so I'm rushing over to her, but I was just so thankful that she told me.
Yes.
Instead of, doing something drastic. So, I was kind of able to go over there and be with her. But yeah, she'll tell me about things. She's like, now she tells me about dating and all of that. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right. I want to hear it, but I don't want to hear it. Yeah. I'm pretty close with it.
This is what you're supposed to do. This is what I did wrong. This is what you need to do. This is what I tell other women too. So yeah.
And that
conversations.
She listens to you and values your advice. And that's exactly what I want. I want to hear, I want to help, even if I'm not comfortable with it, and that she respects you and your advice enough that was a call, because too many people they withdraw, they self-medicate, or if they're younger, they're talking to their peers who don't know any more than they do. And I would say that because you shared with her, she's comfortable sharing with you because you shared uncomfortable things with her. So that all of that goes into good communication with anybody, just being transparent. That's really nice. I don't have any daughters, but I know they seem to talk more too. So I like that as well.
Well, she's still a teenager, so sometimes it'll be a delay telling me of things. But I represented mental health patients for 10 years as an attorney. So it made me really, really aware of, the things that people go through. I've seen young kids, in certain facilities, and, I didn't want her to be there. So that's why I always try to encourage, like, let's talk about, like, what do we have to do? Do we need to go to therapy? Like all those things, and be open and not judge, therapy. I think everyone should go to therapy.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
But yeah, just having those conversations and dialogue. What can we do? And there's nothing wrong. If you're feeling something, your feelings are legitimate. If they're your feelings, they're legit.
Yes, self-care. Great lesson there for her that she will carry on to what I'm sure will be a successful career path as well, with you as an example and support. So you dedicated 10 years to that. And I don't think any time is wasted, particularly if we take the lessons forward, because you wouldn't have stayed 10 years. None of us would have stayed if there hadn't been some good times in there. There are the lows, but there were also the highs. But I'm guessing that's what led to your current entrepreneurial pursuit is the matchmaking attorney.
Yeah.
So let's get to that part, how people protect themselves legally without, destroying the relationship and upsetting the other person. But you've got to be looking at the data and thinking ahead, taking that right brain, left brain approach. When you're working with financially successful middle-aged women and clients, what do you advise them to do if and or before they get married in order to protect all that they have worked for? Because you're not just bringing baggage, you're putting some stuff on the table when you come and you're in your 40s. And people always say about the drama and the baggage, but there's some assets and a FICO score and some other things you're bringing with you and your kids, all of that. So what do we do?
Yeah. So you've worked, especially for a lot of women that I know, they've worked really hard in their careers and sacrificed, and now they're reaping the rewards and the benefits, and they have a nice little nest egg and all of that. So I'm big on, if you have substantial assets in getting a prenup. And some people fight me on that. And I don't advise in that area, but I do know about it. And so I, tell women to do that. But there's two different sides to that, because I work with a lot of Christians and Christian women specifically. So, some are, ministers and, different things in the church. And they're like, well, I don't believe in prenups. Well, in fact, they are very real. So whether
it doesn't matter if you believe they don't need your belief to exist.
Right. But so it's kind of like, I feel like if I have a prenup, it's like I'm saying I don't trust my spouse. And I understand that. And, it's supposed to be a covenant and, all of that. And, they don't want prenups. And I get that. And that's one thought. At the same time, sometimes our judgment can be clouded. We are humans. We are men. We are women. And the reality is, there are some people who are toxic and they are attracted to you for what you have already. And they're very good at disguising who they are and what their intentions are.
Hello.
So it's important to do that. And I understand you continue to pray about it and for clarity, and you go to friends, you go to advisors and all that, you get all of that information. But at the end of the day, other people are like, okay, well, it's an agreement. Marriage is an agreement.
It
right,
is.
in and of itself. So, having a prenup, that's also an agreement. And so that's the thing that I say. They're all agreements. You don't have to get married, but you decide to get married. It's a contract as well. So, just protect yourself. Hopefully you won't need it. Hopefully it won't be an issue. And I can specifically remember when I started dating my ex, when I was for 10 years early on, we had a discussion about prenups because I always knew I was going to be something. I always knew I was going to have something. He did not at the time. He was broke and getting out of a marriage and didn't really have a specific career path. And so he was thoroughly offended when I brought up prenup. And, I was like, I was always like, well, yeah, we can have one. I was never offended by the thought if someone were to say to me, hey, let's, enter into a prenup. I was fine with it.
Right.
He was not. But my husband now, he would have been fine with it.
Yeah. And conversely, if you really believe this is going to work and we're going to do everything we can to make it work, then it shouldn't matter anyway. If that's what I need to make me feel more comfortable and you're so certain it's going to work, what's the problem? We're never going to use it by your view of things. But I had a light bulb moment when you said, we go to church, we get the license, even though we're being married by a minister or not, that's a contractual agreement. And this is just another contract. I don't know why I hadn't even looked at it like that. You're so much thinking about the Christian covenant and what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. But at the same time, we've got a piece of paper that's making it a legal agreement. And does that change people's minds when you're counseling them, when you put it in that way, comparing it to it's just another agreement?
It just depends on the person. And I really think that one is a red flag if one person wants to have one and the other person doesn't. And for some people, a lot of times, especially women, they'll just kind of forego it in the name of love if it's going to offend their potential partner. So again, it's a red flag. So I can't say with definitely what people do, but let's say you've already gotten married and you're kind of like, I just want to make sure everything is protected, or you have kids or what have you. You can, do an agreement after you get married as well. You have a new business, or, new wealth or something like that. We're not talking about separate property, but just maybe a new venture or what have you. And you're like, maybe I do need to do something to protect my assets. That's one way, is doing a post-nuptial agreement.
Okay.
Also, you want to do estate planning. I have been big on estate planning from the time I started practicing. And that was because I saw throughout my life, whenever someone passed in our family, it always seemed to be the financial responsibility fell on my parents for whatever reason. People would go to my parents for money whenever someone passed. They were the ones that did a little bit better. Now it's GoFundMe pages and all of that, which I vehemently disagree with. If you are over the age of, I'm going to give you some time, 25 and up.
I was getting ready to say, I thought you were going to say an older age. I was going to say, especially with what we've just gone through and the millions of people who didn't make it, if you're earning income and life insurance and all of that, you need something specifying where you want your assets to go. I'm glad you're giving people that advice, and I'm going to start doing better about it. I need to circle back to my boys and make sure. Because the mess, it just turns into a mess. People's siblings fighting and suing each other, and aunts and uncles over, what I'm thinking, this is not worth breaking those family bonds. But and people I thought were really close, some just really ugliness comes out over furniture and cars and things.
And the thing is, if you just get a simple will, there's different estate planning mechanisms, wills, trusts, and other things. But with a will, you can put a provision in there to say, if somebody disputes this will, and they're just out altogether, you get nothing. So, you've got to be creative in the process. So if someone contests it, you're still protected. So that makes people, okay, maybe I won't contest it, just to kind of reduce the additional fight in court, which is so unnecessary. Like you said, a lot of times it's just not even worth it. And let me tell you, people change. No matter what you think, oh, my kids, they'll be fine. They're good. They won't fight. They always do. They always do.
They go at each other, and the words and the attitudes. I have just seen numerous families, just everything ruined because of either large or small amount of assets and not agreeing on who gets what. Is heartbreaking. So we need, just in general, in terms of estate planning, we need a will. Do you recommend life insurance?
Absolutely. If you don't have the estate or assets in place, one, not just for your final expenses, but for generational wealth as well. To be able to leave enough for your kids, maybe to start a business or, buy a home. I'm a big proponent of life insurance if you don't have the assets on hand. Also, with the packages that I do for my clients, I do a basic package is a will, also a power of attorney in the event that you become incapacitated. The power of attorney is only in effect if you are living, but, something happens to you where, you might be in a coma or an accident, for a prolonged period of time, or you're a stroke, or you just can't handle your own affairs. You have already executed a power of attorney to have someone appointed to take care of those affairs who legally may not have been able to do that beforehand. And you do it while you're in the right frame of mind. I mean, I've seen so many people who have who've called me to see if I can notarize or prepare a power of attorney while someone's in the hospital. Like, they have no comprehension of what's going on. They may be like in or out. They may be lucid. And sometimes, other times they're not. So, and I'm just like, if I'm not comfortable with your state of mind, I'm not going to do it. But you should not be doing it when someone is in the hospital after something has occurred, because there is a way, again, in the ones that I do, that, again, you have to have the decision of two doctors to say that you're incapacitated. That needs to be in writing. So it doesn't go into effect while you're okay, but only in the event, again, if you're incapacitated and two physicians actually agree to that, then it becomes effective. Okay. And after that is the healthcare directive. Again, what do you want to happen if you are in a coma, if you have an incurable disease, if you can't make decisions, you can't talk? Do you want your life sustained as long as possible? Do you want feeding tubes? Do you want breathing machines? Like, all of that, you can address that now. And I know it's daunting and people don't want to talk about it, but these are conversations that we really need to have. Especially whether you have minor children or adult children. If you have minor children, setting things up so, you have someone to care for them in the event something happens. There are so many people who were lost, in the pandemic, and, they're just kind of scrambling. And then, all my clients, when they finish, doing their estate plans, even if it's a basic one, they feel such a sense of relief knowing that if something happens, these things have been taken care of. And I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Right. And I had surgery recently. I've had numerous surgeries because of a chronic health condition. And they ask you all of that. I mean, that's how important it is that the hospitals are asking you that. And I like being able to check yes for those boxes that these things are taken care of. And like you said, when people are, they're on morphine and in pain and all of that, they can't give consent then for you to become their guardian or medical power of attorney or any of the important documents that you mentioned, but we just all think we have forever. There are accidents, there's pandemics, there's just these things that come up out of nowhere, and you don't necessarily have time then to go and make plans and do these, meet with attorneys and do all of these things. I feel good. I don't want to go right now, but I feel good knowing that if I do, that those plans have already been made, and that my family, in addition to being stressed, I guess depressed about me being gone, that I'm not leaving that additional, those additional duties to them of trying to figure out what to do with mama's stuff, down to the, even the personal articles. My attorney, I have my will and estate plan, but even the rings and jewelry art, any little, I have an additional letter about who specifically gets these books that I have, these signed books and so forth. So I think your clients are in good hands. I'm excited, and I'm learning here too as well. I made some notes here, a couple of more things I need to go into. Before we go, any advice additionally for people with adult children who are looking at getting married, or even, we haven't talked about just moving in with people, right? In certain states, after you live with them so long, you're as good as married, I think, right?
It used to be here in Georgia. There used to be what you call common law marriage, but that has since went away back in, I believe it was 2003. It was the late 90s, early 2000s. So I don't know about other states, but I can say specifically here for Georgia, there's no longer common law marriage. So even if you live together for 10, 15, 20 years, you were not considered married unless you actually are married. You go before someone who is licensed to marry you.
Well, I think that's a good thing. I hope that's in other states as well. I just, people referred to it for so long that I just thought it was commonplace. And I just thought, well, if the people actually never committed, why do they have to, act like that they did and lose their stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard people say, "Well, we're common law married." I'm like, "No, you're not. You're too
You're still
young. First of
single.
all, you are still very much single. You guys have all these kids together, but you are still very much single." But yeah, if you have adult children and you're thinking about getting married,
Mhm.
um, you want to make sure that everything is protected because you have either you're blending families.
Right.
That's an issue. Um, sometimes, if you don't have the proper documents, the things in order, then you're giving the things that you've worked hard for or things in your family to maybe your spouse's children. You may have never even gotten along with your spouse's children, and you have to share those things
Right.
because you didn't take the time to put it in writing. I had a case some years ago. It was a gentleman, and he was in his mid 70s, and he had been married. When he was younger, he had two adult kids, two sons, and so one of his adult sons got me to or asked me to do his will and all that. So before he got married.
Mhm.
So I did his will, and then a couple years later, he got married. And so they called me like, "Hey, do we need to change this?" And I'm like, depends on what you're trying to do, but yes, absolutely. And so there's this couple, they're both in their 70s, but the woman, she's there one day, she leaves another, says, "I want to leave, and you don't give me enough stuff, and I want some more money." And the guy was really kind of like, "I just really want somebody just, to cook some meals for me and
Right. Companionship. What they're always saying, companionship. Right.
right. Just see about me." I thought that was so cute. Just see about me sometimes. So everything is
Oh,
not
poor
all on my
baby.
sons. But he had some assets before he got married, before I knew anything about the wife or anything, and just like some things like gun collections or
Oh,
accounts and all of that.
that one.
And so, depending on how a will is drafted, if you get married, it can invalidate the will. And so, you want to make sure any
Wait,
circumstance,
what?
it can invalidate if it's not termed correct, if you don't have the correct language in there.
Wow.
So
Know
you want to
that?
be whenever we always tell you whenever there's a life event, whether someone passes, whether someone's born, whether you get married, any major life event, you may want to revise
Mhm.
your statement, at least consult with your attorney or consult
Mhm.
with someone to see if you need to. So we have this couple and they've subsequently gotten married. So I had to redid their will, but it was just the craziest thing. They had all this drama. And I'm like, "You guys are in your 70s." He's like, "I don't know. She's coming home tonight."
Oh, she's hanging out.
She was hot.
Wow.
And so, and the sons were really concerned, like, "I don't want her to have these things that have been in our family. Because we don't know what's happening." And I don't know, I haven't spoken to them in a couple of years now, but I specifically did it and I termed it correctly. It doesn't matter whether you get married, whether you get divorced, whatever it is, this is what the will is going to be. This is who's going to get what. And so, yeah, you have adult children. And again, doing those other documents as well. Do you trust your new spouse if you've known for a year or two to make life decisions for you, healthcare decisions for you, or do you want your kids to make it? Or is there someone else? And so those are the things you need to think about. And it's so important. It's just interesting for me how relationships intertwine with the things that I do legally,
Right.
right?
Right.
Seeing all this, I see all the drama and all that, but it's so important just to kind of protect yourself. Again, I
That,
know it's not something that we want to do, but it's vital to reduce a lot of the confusion.
well, and so much of life is doing things that we don't want to do in order to be able to enjoy the things we do want to do. And that's a lot of difficult but critical conversations. I love what you're doing with your career and using your own experiences and knowledge, wealth of knowledge to help others. And in addition to your practice, you also have a magazine, Platinum Magazine. Why did you're the editor and the publisher, why did you give it that name, Platinum in particular, that part of it? And what is the mission of the magazine?
So, Platinum Connections Agency, that is the matchmaking service. So, the magazine is just basically a brand of the agency. And Platinum, because I wanted I just wanted one word that identified with class and just a upper level,
Yes.
the best. and I don't want to use platinum as to describe platinum, but just at a platinum level. So
Yes.
The clients, I want them to be at platinum levels, whether it's financially or professionally. And the people that we feature in the magazine, we talk about relationships. We also talk about business, and we talk about wealth, and we talk about health, and just everything, authorship and speaking, just different things. But it's used as the platform just to highlight, the best in the business, even if you're coming up, because you can be good and just have not had the opportunity to have a spotlight. So that's what it's for. And that's what I love about it. It's just being able to connect people just from all over. I am able to match people professionally and personally. And so the magazine has been a venue for that. So I love doing that. I've always liked writing with all these kids that I have now. And I had my daughter, but I subsequently had 2 more children. So I have little toddlers running around, 2 and 3 years old. But so I don't get the time, and I haven't had the time to write like I've always wanted to. But this allows me to not necessarily write a book necessarily, but I can still write and put in articles there, but also, again, get contributors and feature other professionals.
Trust me, I understand that completely. That's part of what podcasting does for me, is to allow me to explore my love of language and communication when I don't necessarily have time to write and do some of the other ways I like to express myself, and to minister to others, to reach out and nurture and help other people, which is really my heart, and I think yours as well, from what I've heard today. That you've got an incredible life story and career, and I'm just so proud of you, sis. Keep doing what you're doing, particularly helping these professionals to pursue, fulfilling personal lives, whether that's single or in a relationship, and maybe you heard something today and you realize you need to revisit your status and circle back and take care of some things and make sure you're protected and investing in yourself as well as that relationship. Tell us what's next for you, how to get the magazine, how to get in touch with you before we sign off. And I'll drop it in the show notes as well. But tell us how to connect with Tamika Johnson, AKA the Matchmaking Attorney.
Sure. So you can always visit myplatinumconnections.com. You can sign up for the magazine, and you can see all the other services that we offer as well. But yeah, just get on the newsletter, just get on the list. You can always hear about what we have going on. I have a book that I have been working on, like in between all this going on, which is the business of dating. So I just kind of have taken the same principles that I applied in growing my law firm over the years, and the things that many women have utilized in their career and their businesses, taking some business principles that have made us successful, and apply them to dating and relationships. So the business of dating. I have a framework that's called Smart Dating, which, I talk about. You can go visit the website and see all of that as well. But yeah, the same principles that made you successful in business, in your career and profession, and applying those to dating relationships to be successful in those areas as well. This is a journey. It's a lot.
It is a lot. So that's great. That's great. I'm going to encourage listeners to go to myplatinumconnections.com and connect with you and find you on social media, get on the newsletter, do all that. And I wish you and your beautiful family continued success. And thank you for your time here today. And wasn't that a great program? Oh, love that episode. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Learn more about me on my website, drmoanderson.com. That's MOE. You can read book excerpts, watch videos, learn about my services that I offer, and book me for a speaking engagement. I'd love to talk with your group, and I'd love to work with you. So until the next time, review, renew, and re-you. Thank you.